The Boondocks will always be remembered for its humor. But beneath all the comedy, the show also delivered some of the most honest messages in modern television. Through its sharp wit and unapologetic satire, Aaron McGruder created a world that held up a mirror to Black life in America. The show confronted history, culture, and survival with a boldness rarely seen on screen. And at the center of that reflection was the ongoing struggle of Black men to gain and hold wealth and power in a system built to strip it away. In this video, we'll be breaking down those lessons one episode at a time. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoy watching breakdowns on Black representation in media, such as this one. And let's get started. Each of the Boondocks episodes carried a message that was both funny and unsettling. And many of those episodes actually expose how wealth and power in Black life often come with traps hidden in plain sight. One of the clearest examples came in Season 3, Episode 2, Bitches to Rags. In this episode, the Boondocks broke down why Black men struggle with wealth and power through the story of Thugnificent's downfall. He starts the episode still living in a mansion, projecting the image of success, but it quickly becomes clear he is drowning in debt. The repo man shows up, the yard is overgrown, and the IRS is demanding back payments. On the outside, he looks like a star. On the inside, he is broke. That disconnect is the heart of the lesson. Thugnificent's new album fails miserably. Younger rappers like Sergeant Gutter dominate the charts, and the industry no longer values him. The record label drops him, leaving him with no income but the same lifestyle costs. The Boondocks uses this to show how Black men in entertainment are often set up for failure. They get fast money and fame, but they aren't given the tools to build something lasting. Labels, managers, and tax collectors take their cut, and when the spotlight fades, they are left with debt instead of wealth. The desperation that follows drives the point further. Thugnificent tries to get a job, but his past as a rapper blocks him from being taken seriously. Out of options, he even tries selling crack after reading instructions on Wikipedia. It's played as comedy, but the reality is harsh. The show is reflecting a truth many Black men face. Without financial education, ownership, or generational wealth, the fall from success can be sudden and brutal. Fame might give a taste of power, but it isn't real power when you don't control the resources. By the end, Thugnificent cuts his hair, takes a delivery job, and admits that he never expected his career to end so quickly. This conclusion matters to the larger topic because it shows how systemic barriers push Black men into unstable paths, where they can be elevated one moment and discarded the next. The Boondocks makes clear that fame without financial literacy or ownership is fragile, and that's why many never turn success into lasting wealth or power. Thugnificent's downfall in Bitches to Rags showed how fame without financial literacy collapses quickly. But the Boondocks didn't stop there. In The Fundraiser from Season 3, Episode 7, the show shifted focus to Riley, exposing another layer of why Black men struggle with wealth and power. This time, the lesson wasn't about fame. It was about hustle culture and how chasing fast money without structure can turn ambition into self-destruction. The episode begins with Riley mocking his classmates for selling chocolate bars during the school fundraiser. He sees it as pointless until he realizes how much money people are willing to hand over for a cause. Instead of joining the school's official drive, Riley creates his own fake fundraiser and keeps the profits for himself. With Jasmine as his front and Cindy providing muscle, Riley starts buying loyalty, handing out gifts, and even setting up a luxury headquarters modeled after Scarface. On the surface, it looks like power. Riley controls the market and the money is flowing in. But the Boondocks makes it clear this is only a facade. Riley doesn't build anything sustainable. He doesn't think about saving, investing, or protecting the money. Every dollar goes to maintaining an image, keeping his crew loyal, or expanding the scam. Eventually, his business attracts competition from the original chocolate supplier, and a violent turf war breaks out. What started as a kid's scheme ends in mobsters, FBI raids, and Riley barely escaping alive. The operation collapses in chaos, and in the end, he has nothing left. This episode matters because it reflects a real trap many black men face. Hustling becomes the default path when institutional doors are closed. The energy, creativity, and drive are all there. But without access to financial education or stable opportunities, those skills get funneled into unstable hustles that don't last. The show strips away the glamour of hustling and shows the harsh truth. It feels like power in the moment, but it doesn't build wealth, and it can be taken away overnight. Riley smiles at the thought of trying it all again, which makes the point even sharper. Hustle culture keeps people in cycles, where they risk everything but never gain lasting control. That cycle is why the Boondocks calls out hustling as one of the biggest obstacles to black men turning effort into real wealth and power. Riley's failed candy hustle in the fundraiser showed how chasing quick money collapses when there's no structure. But the Boondocks didn't just critique hustling. In Good Times from Season 4, Episode 2, the show turned its focus to systemic financial traps, exposing how debt is used to strip away wealth and power from black families. The episode begins with Granddad admitting to Huey and Riley that he has lost everything. He owes millions of dollars on his house, and Eddie Winkler Jr., the son of the infamous Ed Winkler, steps in with what looks like a way out. But Eddie isn't actually helping. He acts more like a loan shark. Instead of lifting Granddad up, he pushes him deeper into debt, creating a cycle where the Freemans are always paying but never free. The way this episode unfolds makes the point painfully clear. Granddad signs deal after deal trying to save himself, but every agreement only benefits Eddie. Before long, the Freemans are trapped in arrangements that feel less like business and more like modern slavery. By the end, Granddad isn't in control of his home or his future. Eddie Winkler owns both. This is more than a joke at Granddad's expense. It's a reflection of how debt has been weaponized in real life. For many black families, predatory loans, inflated mortgages, and exploitative financial contracts strip away the possibility of building generational wealth. Instead of passing property or security down, families end up fighting just to keep their homes. The power imbalance is the same one the Boondocks illustrates. The Winklers represent institutions that always profit, while the Freemans represent everyday people, left with the consequences. The episode makes it clear that without ownership and protection from predatory lending, black people remain vulnerable, trapped in cycles designed to keep wealth out of their hands and power out of their reach. In Good Times, we saw how debt systems strip black families of ownership and independence. But the very next episode, Breaking Granddad from Season 4, Episode 3, pushed the conversation deeper by showing how financial desperation can drive black families into reckless ventures that endanger not just themselves, but their entire community. The episode is framed as a parody of Breaking Bad, but at its core, it's actually about the instability of black participation in industries like hair care, an area tied to black culture, but often dominated by exploitation and risk. The story begins with Huey experimenting in the garage, mixing chemicals for one of his projects. Robert and Riley see what he's doing and immediately assume he's making a bomb. Huey brushes them off by calling it hair gel. But this is only half the truth. When Granddad later uses it on himself and wakes up with perfectly smooth hair, Huey is forced to admit what it really is: an explosive compound he designed as part of a plan to kill Ed Winkler II. In other words, the mixture was never meant to be a beauty product at all. It was a weapon. Still, Granddad ignores the danger, focuses only on how good it makes his hair look, and starts thinking about how much money they could make. With the family broke, their house repossessed, and Robert stuck working low-wage jobs, the pressure to find a quick fix outweighs Huey's warnings. Even after Huey tells them directly that the gel is explosive and unsafe, Granddad and Riley push forward, convincing themselves that profit is worth the risk. They strike a deal with Boss Willona, a ruthless salon owner who personifies the darker side of the black beauty industry. She knows the relaxer is dangerous, but doesn't care, admitting all her products use harmful chemicals. To her, profit comes first. With her backing, the gel sells quickly. Money flows in, and for a moment, it looks like the Freemans have finally found success. But the illusion doesn't last. When two women are arrested at an airport because the gel triggers alarms for explosives, the danger becomes undeniable. Customers are put at risk. The Freemans face criminal exposure, and the entire operation spirals into chaos. Willona refuses to shut down. Huey is forced to keep producing against his will, and the scheme ends in explosions, betrayal, and death. By the final scene, the money is gone, the product is destroyed, and the family is back at square one. This episode matters because it highlights a painful truth. Even when black people innovate in industries tied to their culture, the environment around them pushes toward unsafe shortcuts and exploitative partnerships. Poverty and pressure can make people knowingly gamble with public safety for survival. The Boondocks shows that it isn't ambition that's broken. It's the system that denies safe, sustainable paths to wealth. And in that system, black men and families often pay the highest price, while the community carries the risks. The failed hustle in Breaking Granddad showed how black ambition often gets pushed into risky and dangerous ventures. But the Boondocks went even further in Freedomland from Season 4, Episode 7, showing further that even when black people aren't chasing unstable opportunities, they're still trapped in systems built to extract wealth and deny power. This time, the metaphor couldn't be clearer. Eddie Winkler Jr. builds a slavery-themed amusement park, and the Freemans find themselves literally enslaved inside of it. The episode begins with the family bored at home until Uncle Ruckus tells them Winkler wants to meet. Granddad reluctantly agrees, and the family ends up at Winkler's new business, Freedomland, a theme park that reenacts slavery for paying customers. What starts as a job offer quickly turns into imprisonment. Huey and Riley are forced to play roles, Tom is dragged in as well, and Ruckus embraces his position as an overseer with sadistic pride. The park turns slavery into spectacle, where black suffering becomes entertainment, while Winkler profits from every ticket sold. The absurdity is intentional. The Boondocks isn't just satirizing slavery, it's making a point about ownership and exploitation. Winkler, a white businessman, takes the most traumatic history of black people and turns it into a product. The Freemans have no power to resist until Huey organizes an escape. And even then, the system still leaves them vulnerable. This is how the show connects back to real life. Black culture, labor, and pain have often been commodified and monetized by others, while black communities themselves see little of that wealth. By the end, the family breaks free, but the message is already delivered. Freedomland represents a broader system, where black people's experiences are mined for profit, but ownership stays in someone else's hand. The episode strips away the illusion that participation alone creates power. It shows that without ownership and control, wealth flows upward, while those at the bottom remain trapped. In this way, Freedomland ties together the lessons from earlier episodes. Fame collapses, hustles fail, debt traps families, and even industries tied to black culture get twisted into exploitation. All roads lead back to the same outcome. Wealth is extracted, but power is denied. That's the cycle the Boondocks wanted its viewers to recognize. Across these episodes, the Boondocks showed how money without ownership slips away, and how power is fragile when the system holds the real control. The show leaves us with a lesson about survival and ambition. Hustling, chasing fame, or signing bad deals can look like progress, But without stability and long-term structure, it all collapses. That cycle is what keeps wealth and power out of reach and keeps Black families fighting to hold on. If you got value from this breakdown, click the like button so others can find it too. Share your thoughts in the comments, join the discussion, and subscribe to Black Wealth Uncut for more videos on Black stories and representation. We'll see you in the next one.